All right, welcome everyone to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Cheryl Litzer, happy to be your host, and joined by my faithful colleagues, Vern Schellinger and Alki Thompson, who are happy to be here with us to answer your job search questions. I am a career coach and a recruiter. Vern is a former HR executive and a coach, and Alki is a recruiter and a coach. So we just see things, everything from the both sides of the hiring aisle. So hopefully we've got some good advice for you guys. And so the way we've been working this is that we've been doing this for over 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic, and we've typically made this an open Q&A. Sometimes we do some deep dives into topics. In the last few months, we've also been trying to do a little bit more intentional networking with you guys, right? To help you all leverage each other's networks, particularly through LinkedIn. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do that. And the way we've been doing that is sort of doing very small breakouts based upon what your profession is and your industry and kind of doing some matching. We'll hopefully we'll get a chance to do that a little later. So before we get going into Q&A, there is a topic that I like to bring up, and that's something I've noticed recently on my own career coaching desk, and that's the topic of vetting job descriptions. That's not something that we typically talk about here. Not we maybe a little bit, but I really want to dive into this. And here's why. So first of all, let me just back up the train and say this. We say this on this call a lot, and that is the job boards are incredibly flooded and are really not the way that people get jobs. Okay, let me just start out by saying that. That is not news, shouldn't be news to anybody here. Even before the federal disruption, the job boards were flooded and just lots of competition, but especially now, not just because of the federal workers that have been laid off, but the ripple effect across the country of all of the different kinds of companies that have been impacted by those layoffs. I mean, it's just right, there's a ripple. And so the boards are flooded, but they're flooded for another reason, and that's because of AI bots. There are AI bots that are creating fake resumes, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of them. So much so that ironically, there are companies who are using AI bots to conduct interviews. I don't know if this has happened to any of you yet, but literally you'll get on a virtual interview. You think you're talking to a person, but you're not. And that has become a little bit more of a trend in the corporate world because truly these companies are so overwhelmed with the thousands and thousands of applicants that they're getting. They just don't have the time to vet. So they're using AI to combat this, which is just ironic, right? Like AI is talking to AI. But with that said, okay, if you do come across a job posting, whether it's on a job board or even through a colleague, let's just even do it that way, talk about it that way, because we always talk on this call about the power of networking. That is really how most people get their jobs these days, is networking through trusted colleagues. So let's just say a colleague even, okay, shares a job description with you. I'd like to talk a little bit about this, and obviously I'll have Vern and Alki chime in with their lens on this. When you are reading a job posting, okay, understand that this job posting was written by the employer, obviously, but they're writing it in such a way to try to let you know what their business challenges are. On your side, it might look all the same. You're looking for a director of marketing role, all those marketing job descriptions all look the same. You're looking for a project management role, they all look the same, but they're not. They're actually not. The human brain is funny this way. We tend to see things in patterns, and we also tend to focus on that which we like, which we're interested in. Our brains are just wired that way. Psychologists call it selective perception. I lovingly call it bullet number 5 syndrome, where you look at bullet number 5 and you fixate on it. It's like, oh, that's my job, right? And meanwhile, your brain is overlooking bullets 1, 3, 7, 9, and 12. Okay. It is the most normal thing in the whole wide world. For years, I have come across this with my coaching clients who, being human beings, having a subjective lens, very in a normal way, will look through something and literally not see that this is not the right job for them, neither because of qualifications nor because of their interest. Okay. But it's very, very difficult to do that. And so I want to slow the roll today and actually talk through this. When you are reading one of these job descriptions, I want you to slow down. Do not gloss over them. It's so easy to do that. Take the 30-second glance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, check, check, check. It's not necessarily that easy. First of all, I want you to really read the summary of this role. What is the organization trying to tell you about this
Is
position?
being recorded.
What are
What?
their what are their challenges that they are looking to help, that they want you to help them solve? What's the state of their situation, right? When they get into the responsibility section, it's typically the first few bullets. Let me just emphasize this again. I'm going to say this very slowly and very deliberately. It's the first few bullets. Let's say the top three or so. That's where the core of the role is located. Really, really read it. Likewise, in the qualification section, the first few bullets, that's where the core qualifications are. And let me just share this. When the employer says something like such and such experience, such and such skill, such and such industry is ready, preferred, that does not mean, oh, that's nice to have. And if I don't have it, it's okay. It's actually the opposite. What they're basically saying to you is, we are going to give priority consideration to the people who have that skill or industry experience. It's not a light thing. They're literally saying, we truly prefer it. If you don't have it, you're going to go into the B pile. Okay. Number one. Number two, when you're reading the responsibilities, I don't want you to gloss things over. So sometimes employers will sort of mention a something, kind of in the fourth bullet or whatever. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you have to necessarily check every single box twice, not necessarily. However, if you start to read these bullets, really like analyze them, you're going to see a theme. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I'll just pick one of many. I was once coaching somebody who is she's in the marketing branding world. And she really, really wanted a job that was very much branding oriented. Well, she shared a job description with me just to get my take on it. My clients often do that, just quick and casual. And when I looked at the job, I noticed that at least 50% of the job was media relations. Not at all, not her qualifications, and definitely not her interest. But she wasn't able to see that because all she could fixate on were the words branding. But the rest of it, it was really focused on media. It just literally blew past her. And she was like, when I pointed out, she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see it because she's human. That's just the way it goes. And that's why I'm slowing down so much to say, when we do this, I'm sure I would do it too if I were looking for a job. This is a normal thing that we almost have to kind of force ourselves to get into an objective mindset to actually see what they're actually saying. And so when you do this, right, you can start to say, oh, number one, am I actually qualified? First and foremost, am I actually qualified? And number two, am I really interested to do what they're asking me to do? And now I'm going to put one more layer on it. And I'm going to ask you to look at some of the verbs. Why am I asking you to look at the verbs? Well, the verbs can actually be very telling in a job description. Here's what I mean by that. Often in a job description, the employer will use verbs like this. We want you to build something, design something, develop something. You've ever seen those verbs? Okay. Well, what they're saying is, we don't got that stuff right now. AKA, we're a bit of a hot mess. They're not saying that, but that's what they're saying. You have to actually understand those lovely sounding words. And that's fine. I'm not saying you should back away from the job, but I want you to understand what they're actually saying because they're never going to say we're a hot mess. They're going to say we need you to develop. And that's great. And if you are the kind of person that you want to take a messy situation and create order out of it and build fabulous. But I want you to know that's actually what they're saying. They're not just saying implement or maintain or execute. They're actually saying build, develop, and design, which means they probably don't have that thing right now. So these are some of the ways that you can kind of get under the hood, making sure that the job is right for you and that you're right for them. So that also not only can you save your time in whether you should even apply to the job in the first place, but can also help you with your interviewing. Because now you can ask better questions, more strategic questions, the under the hood questions. Hey, Mr. Employer, I noticed in the bullet number 3, you mentioned build, blah, blah, blah. Can you tell me more about that? What's the current situation? What do you need me to do? Those kinds of things. What are your ideal outcomes? What kind of business objectives are you trying to achieve here? Does this make sense? So there's a lot that you can mine out of these descriptions. I'm going to say one more thing and then I'll stop and I'll have Vern and Alki talk. For those of you who are in job transition, which might be everyone on this call, I can't be for sure, especially if you're in long-term transition, the natural tendency is to say, well, Shira, that's very lovely, but I need a job. And I'm just going to apply to whatever because I need a job. You want to make sure that you're not making short-term financial decisions that will have a long-term impact. Compensation included, especially for those companies that are actually telling you what the comp is. I've been hearing this even recently, even in the last days. I've had clients say to me, oh, but Shira, I've been in transition for a while. I'm willing to take a $50,000 cut, $20,000, $30,000 cut. Now, you might be able to do that, but please know that you might have buyer's remorse if you do that. Once the benefits start coming in, once the paycheck starts coming in, weeks or maybe a few months into it, you might be calling someone like me, Alfie or Vern, and saying, coming back on this call, going, oh, we don't want that. We love you. We want you to be happily employed, right? Really, really be thoughtful. If it's really just a matter of earning income, paying the rent, all of those things, there are other ways that you can do that. You can do gig work, freelance work, offer your services to colleagues and neighbors. You have some special talents and special skills. All kinds of people are looking for some supplemental help, right? They're looking for your skills. Maybe you know how to plan events or do some bookkeeping or some closet organizing or whatever it is that you do, some writing, some anything, right? Think about ways you can repurpose your skills to earn a little bit of extra income, and then really try to look for the right role, the right permanent role, which nothing's permanent anymore, but the right long-term fit, and have more of a lens as if you were gainfully employed, as if you were like had the pick of the litter. What's going to be right for you and what's going to be right for them? Is this making sense? I'm really trying to be thoughtful here because I hear this all the time with my clients these days around, I just want to go for anything, A, and B, seeing what we want to see rather than what's actually there in the job description. So with all of that said, I know I just gave you a long speech, and I know we've had a couple of people who just joined us. This was I think, a very important speech I just gave, and I want to make sure that you all have access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and put into the chat where you're going to be able to find this after this meeting. I'll try to put it up as soon as I can. It might take me a day or two, but in the chat, hold on a second. This is the page on my site where you can find the videos, not just from today, all the way back until the beginning of the beginning of the pandemic when we first started doing this. And Brian, I know you just joined us as well. I just put in the chat. I don't know if you can see it. I'll do it again. A link to where you can find the videos here. I just gave a long speech about how to vet job opportunities that I think is very helpful. So avail yourself of that. Okay, so with that, actually, Monica, before we go, is it okay if we hold on for a minute? And then I do want to give an opportunity for Vern and Alki to share anything else that they like about the topic I just shared.
I don't know that I can add much to what you said, Shira. As Shira said, while I was an HR executive, I also went through the job search process 5 times in my career. And it's human nature when you're in the job search process. I'm trying to remember where the quote came from, but it feels like you're in a trapeze, right? And you've let go of one
Yep,
part of the trapeze and you're in midair waiting to grab onto the next one. And it's a really uncomfortable feeling. And so what Shira just said about, you know, I just need to find a job.
right.
I mean, that can really take over the way you think and the way you act. And as Shira was pointing out, you've really got to think long term, as hard as it is in the job search process to get the right job, get a job that you're going to be able to make a contribution, feel good about all of the positive things that deep down inside, that's what we all want. So other than that, I can't add much more to what Shira said in terms of the job description. So I'll turn it over to Elke.
Yeah, that trapeze is a great example, and I think we say on this call sometimes too. do what you got to do, just so everybody knows. We're not telling you what to do. You've got bills to pay and things like that. We're recommending, if you can, to at least think about the impact. If you have options, it could impact you down the road. Obviously, you got things to do. You have to do. Desperate measures call for desperate actions. But as long as you understand that if you take a major pay cut, and someone learns a little bit about even though they can't really ask anymore what you made in your last role or anything like that, it could impact you. Your title could impact you, the title that you put on the resume, things like that. When if you do have to make desperate decisions, do your best to try to negotiate title, a title change, title move, things like that. Keep that in mind. And then going back to what Shira said, which is 1,000%, I agree with. Um, right now, a lot of people are applying for all kinds of roles, and everybody is saying even more, why don't I get any feedback? One of the reasons why is because now, 30 people who know they're not qualified are applying for your role, which just mucks up the system for recruiters. It's just more
Or
people getting in
300
front
or
of you,
3,000 people.
and 1,000 could be 1,000 people who are ahead of you now. So when it's kind of a tricky trapeze that Vern talks about. Part of that trapeze symbolism too is you know a lot of people, you're contributing to what's happening in the job market by applying for everything. If everybody's doing that, ultimately making it tougher for you to get feedback, to get looked at, to get seen, which means you apply for even more roles, you stay in the job market even longer. And it's easy for us to say, right, hey, everybody, stop applying for roles you're not qualified for. But it's kind of a self-help thing to think about, and encourage your friends as well to really vet job descriptions if possible. And if you look up and realize that, yeah, you're not 70, 80%, 90%, qualified and can check, 70 to 90% of the boxes of the job description, it might be something you want to pass on. And then also, lastly, Shira said an important point. I always tell candidates, especially if there's like an HR person who screens you or a recruiter who screens you, pepper them with questions, to vet that job description even further. Ask the important questions, especially those that you look at and you're like, I don't know about that bullet, or I don't even know what they're asking for there. It looks like what I did in my last role, but I'm not sure. Just ask them, hey, what are the top priorities for this role? Why is this role even open in the first place? How soon are you looking to hire someone? When are you guys going to make a decision? For everybody who says they never hear anything back, this might be the only time that you get a chance to vet the job description and their needs and their priorities. Because a lot of times you're like, yeah, I had a great chat with the recruiter. I thought it was going to be a good opportunity, but they never showed their poker hand. They never showed you the things that are really important to them. They're just screening you one-sided, and you're saying, all right, thanks. And you're checking a box. Hey, I spoke to somebody today. Use those 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes to get as many questions as you can. Not saying that everybody's going to answer those questions, not saying that an HR person is going to know all the details, but you ask every question that you possibly can and vet that description.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Alki. As you can see, we have lots to say about this topic. All right. So because we have a lot of people today, especially because we have a lot of people today, I'm going to ask whenever anybody raises their hand, if you can keep your question kind of really to the point and pretty short, that'll allow us to enable us to answer more questions. So Monica and then Don.
Yes, well, my question had to do with the salary issue, and I know we're being recorded, so but basically, I live in Greenbelt, Maryland, in a three-bedroom townhouse that I couldn't, that I got when mortgage rates are at their lowest, and so like I couldn't rent a studio apartment in Reston for what I'm paying and for my mortgage and co-op fee, and so when I've had interviews, that are for jobs that I applied for, knowing the salary range, I've been asked like a couple of times, like if I'm sure I would take that, the salary. And of course I would, because, I've got this, this crazy, housing situation. And so I don't want to be like on sale, but at the same time, like if I were to commute to Reston 5 days a week, it would be a nightmare. But on top of it, I would, if I moved to Reston, I literally would probably have to pay 25, $3,000 more a month in housing costs. And so, I mean, and so like you can't have that discussion. I know I'm probably rambling now, but I mean it's frustrating because if you apply for jobs, that are a reasonable commute from Greenbelt, you get this kind of question when and then, but it's completely reasonable for your housing, which would be completely unreasonable if you were based in Reston.
So if I can interrupt, Monica, so it's you're bringing up a really good point because people make salary decisions for all kinds of reasons, okay? And legitimately, the employer is going to wonder, is that salary right for you? Now, you're right. You don't want to be getting into all of your like, hey, my rent is this, my mortgage is obviously not, right? At the same time, you can, whatever your situation is, if you make a thoughtful, not a knee-jerk decision, but a thoughtful decision for you, that you are willing to take the X dollar cut because of the commute or the housing situation or geography or whatever it is. You can very simply say to an employer, look, because of my personal life situation, that compensation actually would be perfectly appropriate. And that's it. That is it. As long as you're very intentional in stating that. Now, since you brought up the commute, I know your topic was more around salary. If you don't mind, I'm just going to jump off of that for a second and address commute. Okay, that's the other side of this. So I've had it happen even recently. I was coaching somebody and he, funny enough, lives in the like not Reston, but like South Riding or something. And he's applying for a job in Columbia. I know, right? Like it might as well be California. And I had to coach him through this. But he said, because of the situation, he is willing to do it. But we had to have a very, very thoughtful conversation, a slow the roll, not just, hey, I want to apply for the interview practice. On behalf of all recruiters everywhere, please don't try to interview for the practice. You don't want them interviewing you for the practice. You want to interview if it's actually a legitimate role and you're a legitimate candidate. So let me say that. And he wasn't doing it for the practice. He was actually interested in it, but we really had to think it through. How many days a week of the commute? What time of day would he be traveling? All the things. So whether it's a commute issue, whether it's a salary issue, whatever it is, just be really, really thoughtful so that when the employer says, hey, are you okay with the commute, the compensation, whatever it is, you've already done some good thinking. You're doing it with a lot of intention. That's all you need to say to them. I have really thought about this. And yes, I'm okay with the commute. Yes, I'm okay with the compensation. I'm a good. They just want to make sure that they're minimizing their risk in the hire. We talk about this all the time. They're always managing risk in everything, in comp, in location, in culture fit, in skill fit, in industry fit, all the things. That's important to them. You have your own risks that you're trying to manage in the very same areas, okay? But they're asking you some legit questions. So thank you, Monica, for bringing that up because all you have to do is say, I'm being thoughtful about this.
Yeah, I mean, just
I
one more thing, is that I mean, you know, I'm I'm like 6 years now from chemotherapy, and so, but during the pandemic, I prioritize safety over full billability. I'll be honest, because I would rather work with people that were supportive of COVID than not, and so. What I'm saying is that, people might think I'm taking a huge pay cut, but if we're coming out of the pandemic and I prioritize safety over big bucks,
And again, and you don't, and again, Monica, and this is for everybody here. That's why
yeah,
I'm sorry, interrupting you. But no matter what the situation is, you don't want to get too this is for
I
everybody.
know, I know, because
Want to get
that,
too
yeah,
personal in how much you're sharing. So as long as you say to the employer, I've really thought about it, I've taken some time, and you don't have to share the reasons. In fact, I would
yeah,
encourage all of you not to
not
share the
to,
reasons.
yeah, no, I know.
And in fact, even in calls like this, right, we want to make sure that we're
Yeah,
being
well, no, it's
authentic.
in theory, I'm in
and
full
what
remission now because it's been more than 5 years. But I
Alki?
mean, but the pandemic was a nightmare, because like there were a lot of COVID was politicized, and if you were high risk, there were people that were not supportive, and
Monica, I
those
just
were the
want
people. Yeah.
thank you. Monica,
what
sure we get Alki's thought as
Okay.
well.
What's interesting, I'll just stay to drop a point in here since she brought up the topic. And if you've been a manager before, you might understand this. If you've been a part of a hiring team, you may understand this. If you're just a regular adult, you may understand this. Um, Employers, Shira mentioned they're risk averse. They're also sometimes short-sighted. They're not thinking about all the things that job seekers are thinking about. A lot of times, again, they're just, we have this position we have to fill, we have to get it done. Now, it's different for every employer, it's different for every manager. But a lot of times when it drills down to the hiring manager, they're really a lot of times just thinking about, wow, we've had this role vacant for a month, 2 months, whatever. I'm doing extra work. I only have time. I'm running to an interview right now. Yeah. Hurry up. Let's get in the interview. They're not thinking, um, wow, you've been a director before and now you want to be a manager. They look at that and they think, are you sure you want to take that salary? It doesn't compute to them because regardless of the situation we might be in right now, what's going on in our personal lives and in the country, they're thinking, wow, a vice president to a director or a director to a manager, unless they're really in tune and grounded to understand, why you're making a decision. I'm speaking now because this, as a recruiter who's been on the inside before, 30, 40, 50%, 60%, I've seen 70% decisions that I've even argued and advocated for that they just couldn't get past in their mind why you would take a
A big
certain
cut.
salary
That's
that they
right.
think is supposed to be like, what? Well, if you're a VP, you're supposed to be here. We
Right.
don't have time to talk about this on this call, but the number of screen outs that happen because of title and compensation that they think in their brain,
Yes,
why
yes.
would they be willing to accept that title? That doesn't make any sense. They must not value, their career path. And everybody right now is like, career path. Are you seeing what's going on in the world right now and all these, XYZs or whatever? So it's something to keep in mind that if, to Shira's point, you don't have to go through all of your personal situation, but it is good to connect and engage with your employer and your interviewers so that the whole conversation is about, we get each other right. Listen, this is where I'm at in my career. Yep, I've done a lot of things. I've been a director. I still have those leadership skills. This role was interesting to me because of this aspect or what you guys are doing. And I see the opportunity. Those are ways to get around it without having to fully explain or get into an argument like now, and then you appear desperate to them. That's the way they
Yeah.
see it as well. They don't really know where they are in their
They don't
career if they
know.
accept a role like
Yeah.
this.
Well, that's
They're
the
thinking
As
you're
long as
supposed
you're
to be,
intentional.
they're,
Yeah.
yeah.
they're
Well, that's
thinking you're supposed to be A, and then your next position title is B and C, and it's all of that. They don't think like, you looped back, you circled around, it was this opportunity, a friend called you, you couldn't turn it down. They don't think that way. So
So
that's for everyone on the
if
call.
it's okay, Don and John have
Um,
been really, really patient. If it's
yeah.
okay, I want to make sure we're
yeah,
keeping the
no,
time. So
that's fine.
thanks,
Yeah.
Monica. All right,
Yeah.
Don and then John.
Actually, I'm going to switch my question. The Alfred brought up something. So my last role, when it comes to title, was VP, but it really wasn't a VP role. It
Mhm.
was what I call consulting VP.
Okay.
It was a VP because we were being presented to the client in a consulting role, and they want the title. I
Right.
didn't have anybody reporting to me. So how do I deal with that? Because and I did jump around beforehand, before this current job, which I've been at 4 years, and I took a lesser title. And I know I was talking to a recruiter before, or someone like yourself, and they were saying like whether to keep it or not keep it.
I've got an easy answer
Because
for
I would,
you. Got
pardon
an
me?
easy, I got an easy answer for you. And this is for
Okay.
everybody here. Okay. I've been doing this one for years. Okay. And this is for anyone on this call who has ever had a title that is not either not reflective of the level or not reflective of the scope of the role based upon your brand. Now you're going to have to hear me out because I am going to give you, I'm going to call it an ethically creative way to handle this. Okay. Ready? Here we go. So the first thing I'm going to say, do not throw a rotten tomato at me. I'm going to say, I'm going to give you a way to change your title. No, no rotten tomatoes. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do this. So Don, what I want you to do is come up with an appropriate title. The word consultant's a little funny, right? Because then it actually makes it seem as like you were a consultant, like you had your own business. It's a little bit funny. So maybe
Yeah.
not the word consultant, but something, even if you don't have a title after it. So for example, I have a colleague, she works for Microsoft, and she has this funky title, but really her function area is customer care. So she literally just on her LinkedIn and on her resume, just says customer care. Doesn't even put manager, director, whatever it is. She just puts the thing. But here's the ethical way to get around this, okay, to do it legit. You write whatever you think the legit title is. And by the way, don't, an opposite of Don's question, don't overtitle yourself. Either don't put VP if you really weren't. But then what you do is you put an asterisk. This is how you legit do this. Put the new title, little asterisk, then take that little asterisk, put it at the bottom of your full job description or your bullets in like 8, 9 point, and you go, little asterisk, official title, colon, vice president, blah, blah, blah. You could even add official title was blah, 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 semicolon, the title, blah, the thing that I just put is more an accurate reflection of as a better reflection of my actual duties, something like that. So you're saying what you believe is the role, but then officially, this is what it was. Does that make sense? It's an optical thing that gives
Yes.
you some cover.
Okay. So them going to be okay. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome, John, and then Catherine.
I'm curious, back to reading the job role carefully and looking for a match, and being really thoughtful about whether or not that match is there. Do you have an opinion on how well LinkedIn's AI assessment does in helping people evaluate? I use it all the time because for me, it scans the role and then it'll say you match high match on and it'll call out where there may not be one. Do you think it's reliable?
I can't tell you for sure because that's not something that I dive into. And frankly, AI keeps changing, LinkedIn keeps changing. So here's what I'd say with anything AI, as we always say, you need a human in the mix, right? It's really just there, whatever it is, any screening tool, AI or no AI, it's trying to vet it a little bit more for you, but you still have to take that vetting and then say, is this accurate? So regardless of how accurate it is, it doesn't matter. It's just trying to make life a little easier for you. You still have to do the things that we talked about. Look at the first few bullets of the responsibilities and the qualifications. Am I really qualified? And by the way, I wanted to share something else, a little PS. They talk about qualifications. It's very easy. This is why I mentioned the first few bullets of the responsibilities and the first few bullets of the quals, because what a lot of people will do is they'll jump to the qualification section and look up bullets number 5, 6, 7, 8. You know the ones I'm talking about. All those lovely soft skills. We want a team player and strategic and a critical thing. You're like, oh, I'm those things. That's not how they're vetting you. They are not vetting you based on the soft skills on that job description, on your resume even. I hardly put those kinds of things on a resume when I do resume writing. A little bit at the top, but not much. They want to know hard skills. Functionally, do you have the hard skills to do this job? Number 2, do you have the industry experience that we are in? Those 2 things. Those are the main things. And of course, is your title relatively aligned with the title that we're looking for? Those are like the quick cut. Once you get into the interview, that's where they're looking at your soft skills, or what we call behavioral skills, your critical thinking, strategy, team player, all those things, right? But on your LinkedIn, on your resume, you're looking at the job description, push those don't ignore them, but push them really more to the side. Focus on hard skills, industry experience, title, and say, if I were the recruiter, this is a great exercise, everyone. If I were the recruiter vetting my resume for this job, would I say yes or no? Be that objective. Would I say yes or no? Because raise your hand, please, virtual or otherwise, has anybody here been a hiring manager? Vetted resumes. Okay, about half of you. Think about it. The last time that you did that and you looked at resumes for an opening that you had, what filtering were you using? You were being pretty objective, like, oh, does the person have the title? Do they have the industry experience or skills? That's the kind of rigor that you want to use when you're vetting your own resume against a job. Is this making sense? We're really spending time on this today because it is so important. If you're going to apply to a job posting, you need to have this rigor. Now, with all of that said, and Catherine, we see your hand. With all of that said, we talk about it on this call all the time. Network, network, network. That's the way that most people get jobs. So the job posting thing, we're only spending time on it for those of you who are applying, but please, 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 please don't spend all of your time on the job boards because it is so flooded. It is so, so, so difficult to get noticed on these job boards is just ridiculously, it's like it's a tsunami. It's not even a flood, it's a tsunami of competition. So really leverage your network. But again, that's a different conversation we've had. Well, we'll just pause on that. Okay, Catherine.
Hi. Um, my question is, I've been applying for roles. I work in the healthcare industry and specifically in dental. And I've been applying for similar roles in the revenue cycle department, but for healthcare. Sometimes I'm getting seen and sometimes I'm not. I have been using LinkedIn heavily, so I can, LinkedIn kind of send you like notifications when somebody has viewed your resume or downloaded it. And I'm just having a hard time just really, I guess, those transferable skills into healthcare. I'm like really having a hard time um, being out there with those skills because, in my opinion, the dental industry and the medical industry, that department is very similar. It's just, coding wise is different. And especially like the level that I'm applying to is like director, whereas more strategic and operational. I just feel like once they see that I have more dental experience, it kind of like throws them off. So I'm just unsure how to go about that.
So I'll give a first cut and then Alki, I see you shaking your head, or nodding your head. Love to hear your thoughts. So when you're trying to do a career pivot of sorts, but it's still within the same, if you will, community. Like for you, Catherine, there's dental. You're actually part of what you mentioned the word healthcare. If it's okay with you, I'm going to
Mhm.
reframe it maybe to the larger medical world. Okay. What you want to do is brand yourself in that larger world, which is legit for you. You're just a subsection of the medical community. So what you may want to do is at the top of your resume, start it with a career headline, which I recommend everybody do. Have a career headline, big, bold, 16 point. For somebody like you, maybe, and I don't know your full background, but maybe it sounds something like medical billing leader or medical
Mhm.
revenue cycle leader, something like that, where you have the word medical, which is the broader category, and then you're branding yourself within that, what I call your lane. So there's lane and community. Lane is what you do, community is who you do it for. So your lane is that billing revenue cycle thing, but medical is your larger community. So that to me is a way to at least make your resume pop and say, legit, I'm applying for this. We're part of the same community. You're part of the same family, if you will. In addition, I would then go down to the skill level. And this is for everybody on this call. I want everybody to listen up to this, regardless of whether you were career changing or not. When the employer is vetting your resume, they are vetting on key skills. Remember the functional skills, the hard skills? Well, where that shows up in your resume matters. You don't just want those skills sort of embedded in all of your bullets. There are some key places that you want to put it. Number one, sort of at the top, some people use a text box, some like columns, key skills that pop off the page in a little section. And make sure, Catherine, that when you're going down the job description, you're pulling out those key skills, not the soft skills, not the
Mhm.
critical thinker and, strategic, but the actual, billing cycle types of, I'm not in your world. I don't know your jargon, but coding, right? So like
Mhm.
medical billing coding, insurance, HIPAA, I don't know, whatever it is. And you put those skills, some were bold, like in a little section. But then at the same time, when you go down to your job description area, you want accomplishment stories, not job duties, but accomplishment stories that are labeled with a bold label. So let's say you have an accomplishment bullet in plain type. You want a little bolded skill label that is whatever it is, coding, HIPAA, I don't know, something down the page that aligns with the job description. So then the whole thing is tailored and branded aligned with that job. Your heading, your key skills at the top, and then those little bolded labels all the way down the page. Then what'll happen is hopefully, Catherine, they're going to optically sort of see you as part of the family.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, sure, you happen to work for a dental practice, which you can't change that, but at least the rest of it hopefully will draw them closer into you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
All right, Alki, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say it's not easy. I was working with someone last year who had been a dental hygienist for about 20 years. And basically, she's looking to make a change. And I won't lie, she had a rough time, especially on her own. But I was coaching her along the way about what Shira's talking about now. It's branding. So on the one hand, coding and billing in the medical community, it's coding and billing. If that's what you said you do, billing and coding, But and this, the medical field, the health field, is very nichey, and even dental to medical is very, very nichey. They still look at you like, wait a minute, what are you doing here? You're not medical. This is chiropractic. You're dental. Get out of here. You guys are in a whole different network, a whole different family. So the first start is branding yourself and your resume so that you can even, they can at least look up and go, we recognize, that uniform. It's at least in the medical community, but what do you do? Okay, billing and coding. Okay, great. But wait a minute, you do it for dental. Now I get out of here. So it's once you brand yourself resume wise, which to Shira's points, there's a lot of things to do on your resume that need to show, friendly fire. Hey, I'm one of you, med community, less dental up front, saving the dental things for more of your experience, but not throwing it all over the place, because the more you brand yourself as dental,
Right.
the less they're going to look at you to welcome you into their community. But there's a lot of networking, connecting, and talking and introductions that happen in the medical and the health field, with somebody having to open the door to say, no, 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 she's cool. She's one of us. She can do this. We just have to train her on this. But yeah, she's been in the environment. She's not afraid of, she's not afraid of blood. She understands patients. She understands insurance, all those types of things and how they work. It's just getting you branded over and welcomed into a new family, which is where a lot of the networking, working with recruiters who understand that, come in at.
So Alki, thank you for mentioning that, because that's the other thing I want to share with everybody. And this is both for career changers and just regular, right, all the job seekers. We have said this before, we'll say it again. You want your reputation to show up before your resume. Your relationships to show up before your resume. That's the power of networking. And Catherine, that is even more important, to Alki's point, even more important when you're doing a career shift. If somebody in the medical practice that you're trying to get into, if you know them, if you can find them on LinkedIn, which is a whole other conversation, but if you can find somebody who you know, or somebody who knows somebody at that organization, and they can do an introduction for you, and they can say, oh, Catherine, she's fabulous. You guys need to meet her. So often, just that introduction will get the employer to soften up and go, you know what, this is a real person, not just a resume. And then sometimes they will interview you just based on the referral. And then when you're in the interview, you can show them your wonderfulness, right? And show them how you can make an impact and your learning curve and, your quick learner, all those things. But it's really a matter of, again, minimizing risk. Employers, just like we all do, employers love to hire people that are from trusted referrals. Think about any of you. If you're ever looking for a vendor, a hairdresser, a dentist, a plumber, anything, what do? Do you go to Yelp first? No. You go to your neighbors, you go to your friends, you go to people who can refer you somebody who's trusted. And that's going to make you feel better, like this is a really credible referral. It's the same thing. If you can do that introduction, it's going to be easier to make that career pivot. Vern, anything you'd like to share?
Well, I was going to say, and the stronger the relationship you have with that person, and the stronger the relationship that person has with the hiring manager, that goes a long way. In other words, if I'm the hiring manager and Shira comes to me, and I've known Shira for 20 years, and says, you need to see Catherine, automatically I'm going to see Catherine. Now, if it was a looser connection, we would still recommend that, again, somebody mentions your name, but it may not get you the interview just based on that. That and again, that's what Shira said about this, the power of networking, the power of human connection. How much do I trust this person? And if I trust them implicitly and they're recommending this person, I need to see this person.
Trust. It's hugely important in the job search.
Yeah.
Huge. Okay. Other other questions? If not, if we don't have any other questions, I think we'll, oh, John, I want to go into some networking. Yeah. Oh, John, you're on mute.
Thank you. I asked one already, so if somebody else wanted to go first, no?
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, John. Oh, okay.
So I have an extensive background in for-profit, and then about 6 years ago, wound up taking a nonprofit role and loved it, absolutely loved it. And I thought, boy, I would happily stay in nonprofit for the rest of my career. Really gratifying. But I'm finding that because of the federal cuts in March, that my typical nonprofit clients have really hit the skids. And so I'm curious to get any take you may have. I'm seeing fewer postings, a lot fewer postings, and I'm also seeing some postings where the pay is 30 or 40% below.
Yep.
And it used to be like a 10 to 20%, which I could live with, but 30 to 40 I can't. So is that
You're
what you're
on.
seeing? Well,
John, you are so on. It's not even funny how on you are. I'm not even going to like sugarcoat any of that. That is like, and more and more. The nonprofit community has been really, really, really hit hard. All of it, all of the nonprofits, international, domestic, GovCon, who's work with, all of it. There's just been ripple effects across the entire region. So I can't sugarcoat it. It just is what it is. You may want to think back to the corporate sector and maybe more, what we call more the mission driven companies,
right.
not necessarily a B Corp, but those kinds that are a little bit more missiony, that might be, kind of scratch that mission itch for you. But yeah, the nonprofit community, I mean, just the people who've only been in nonprofits are having a challenge getting back in. So it's the fact that you have corporate, I think, is a blessing, frankly, that you might be able to fall back on that. That's what I would recommend.
Thank you.
I, I'll add to John. I used to work corporate recruiter for a couple of nonprofits, and before I became a recruiter, I was in the nonprofit world and in the nonprofit space. You know this as well too. Is when the cuts start happening or things shift, they start slicing and dicing, and money gets tight. In most situations, certain people are kept, whether it's leadership or whatever strategic positions are kept, others are cut. There's no guarantees to what you said and what Shira said as well. What I would say, and I'll back up what she said too, is that, hey, good for you. You have the option of, all right, well, I can return to private because I've been private before. But also what I've seen happen on the inside, having been a recruiter where they've come to HR and said, hey, we're getting ready to cut an entire department or a whole region or across the country. I've been in on those talks and decisions, and I've seen that oftentimes it's those unique people or those unique leaders or people with special skills or backgrounds like yourself who understand corporate and private. Oftentimes they're the ones who are kept. So for everybody on this call too, who's thinking of this world, when nonprofits cut and things get tight and things are happening like they are around the world and in this country, the market gets saturated with current mission and nonprofit people, but also other people from private sector like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of private sector. I'm tired of the government. I'm going to go do mission work. So now there's more people competing. Stand out is the best way to give yourself a leg up is by highlighting yourself and showing things besides, oh yeah, I love the mission. I love the work. That's usually everybody. At the end of the day, the CEOs and the VPs and the boards are saying, we need to keep the essential people, and we definitely need to keep the people who can either keep the operation running and keep our bills paid, or who can get us more money or open up new markets to us, or can do double work and all of that. So it's not completely a lost cause. It's even more important to make yourself stand out, because nonprofits a lot of time, and it's terrible for the other people, but they will hold on to or seek out people who can help them protect, grow the bottom line or constituents and membership.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Revenue. Thanks, Alki. Stacy.
I think she's on mute.
Yeah, I know she's trying to get herself unmuted.
Okay.
There
My
you are.
apologies. My apologies. I'm a senior corporate recruiter and not using Zoom well today. Hi. My name's Stacy. I've been a senior tech recruiter in corporate for 20 years. I think you just answered my question, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I've been at Dell, VMware, PayPal, all of the big tech companies, and probably have been through 4 severance packages, maybe 5 since 2005. I've had a terrible time in the last 2 years because I am over 50, because I have senior experience. And I just went through 3 rounds of interviews with a nonprofit that is so aligned with my passion and my advocacy in my personal life that I'm afraid I fangirled too much at my last interview. I was just effusive about how much I wanted to be part of this mission because of how aligned it is with my personal principles. And I know the CEO that I'll be meeting with this week. It's a 3-hour interview, and she wants to grow her business from 50 million to 100 million. And I have 3 decades of corporate contacts from Roku and Dell and all of these places. And I'm saying this out loud, but knowing, I think what the answer is I need to make sure that my hard skills are on point
That's right.
and that I can bring the managed service provider agency type roles, even though I've been a corporate recruiter the majority of my time. So I need to highlight where I've done that MSP work. And then what I wanted to ask you was, I want to rewrite my resume again before she sees it, and she's probably already seen it. So, in your opinion, from recruiter to recruiter, if I were to revise it and get it more crystal clear about what value I can bring to driving the growth
Mm-hmm.
versus my soft skill alignment,
Mm-hmm.
would that look bad to you? That's what I want to bring her, a more crisp resume. And I think the one I gave her sucks, to be honest. So that's where I'm at. And I have a final interview with her this week.
So is there a reason why you think that wouldn't work?
That it would look desperate.
Well,
I'm feeling.
wait, hold on a second. What do you, this is really interesting to all three of us.
Yeah.
What do you think would make it look desperate if you're actually focusing on business growth?
Well, it's my personal perception. I've been turned down for so many jobs in the last 2 years that I'm feeling desperate, and that I don't want them to think I'm just throwing something out there that I pieced together over the weekend because I felt desperate, I guess. And that's in my
So
head.
that's a mindset. Yeah. The
Yeah.
employer doesn't think about this. Just understand everybody on the, remember, when we answer you, we're answering everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't think about that. They don't think about the emotional side of where you're at. They think of one thing, advancing their business objectives. If you, Stacy, in a thoughtful way, say, hey, CEO, look, I know you guys have this current version of my resume. Since my last interview, I wanted to highlight for you some of my business growth accomplishments to showcase to you my ability to help you generate, right, revenue. I'm hoping that this will be helpful and thoughtful for you. And Stacey, I'm going to take it one more level. And that is to suggest to you and anybody on this call, especially when you get to that second, third level or fourth level, is to think about doing a small presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether that's a SWOT analysis, whether that's some suggestions for growth, do an
Yes.
analysis of everything you've heard to date and say, here's a go forward map. By the way, when I suggest this, I don't mean to do it in a presumptuous way. There's a way to share this that's not like, oh, I'm going to. No, you're not going to. You're offering. You're what I call it using humble confidence. Right? You sort of confidently but humbly suggest, look, based upon what I've heard, what I've read, what you guys have talked about, all these things, here are some ideas, ways that I might suggest standing up this role. What do you think? Here's some concepts. Here's some initiative. Hey, Miss CEO, what are your thoughts about this? What have you already tried? Might this work? Let's talk about it. You're basically ginning up a conversation. It's what I call having a windshield conversation rather than a rear view mirror.
Right.
Interviews are typically, you know this, you're a recruiter. Most interviews are very rear view mirror based.
Yeah.
Have you, rather
Right.
than what would you do? So more like almost like creating a situational interview for yourself rather than a behavioral interview, right?
Right.
And you stand, and I don't mean, by the way, giving them a 30, 60, 90 plan. I am not a big believer in that because everybody says the same thing where I'm going to do a listening tour. Everybody does a listening tour. I am not a believer in that. Really be thoughtful about offering some interesting ideas based on
Mhm.
what you've heard, but again, in a non-presumptuous way. That's not desperate. That's being a business partner. It's frankly, Stacey, and for everybody on this call, where I say it as an interviewing is pretend it's your first day on the job.
Right.
What would you ask?
Mm.
It's your first week on the job, your first month on the job. What might you
Mhm.
share? What might you offer? What might you advise? But again, you're always doing it in a non-presumptuous way. You're trying to gin up a conversation, but you're showcasing your curiosity, you're showcasing your critical thinking, you're connecting the dots, and you're saying to the employer, this is what you're going to get. If you hire me, this is how I think. That's why you do a presentation. You're showcasing to the employer, this is how I think. Am I thinking the way you need me to be thinking? And oh, by the
Right.
way, it's good for you, Stacey, because then you hear how she's thinking. And
Right.
is she thinking the way you need her to be thinking? Are you jiving? Are you connecting? Not just based on your past experience, but you're like standing up the job together. You're like, literally, it's my first week, first month on the job. What is it going to look like for us to work together and to synergize ideas? Does that make sense? So you can
Yes.
do that and don't worry about, injecting it. Just say to the whoever your point of contact is, say, look, before my meeting with my CEO, is it okay if I spend the first 10 minutes sharing a deck, sharing a
Mhm.
little presentation? They'll probably say
Mhm.
fine. They're not expecting you to do it. They're not asking you to do it, but you're taking the time and they'll typically be fine with it.
Awesome. Thank you so
And,
much. I'm really grateful for
and
that.
Stacy, in all my years in HR, looking at thousands and thousands of resumes, I can tell you, at least this person, if you said, I've updated my resume to make it more, to give you some more updated information, I would
Mhm.
say, thank you very
Thank you
much,
very much.
because I'm trying to make a decision here. And
Right.
so if you're giving me more accurate information than I've already had, you've actually helped me in terms
Mhm.
of,
Great.
the
That's right.
decision
Help them
making.
make a good business decision. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Stacy,
Good luck.
Stacy, we can't let you go that quick. Getting another recruiter on the call, but I'm not going to keep you long. But I'll come back to something you said in a second. But for everybody on the call, key point that Shira and Vern made is giving them the heads up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
If you ever send a resume or submit a resume, stay consistent with that. Again, this isn't for Stacy so much; she knows this, but for everyone else on the call, stay consistent because surprises surprise them. Entering new things, changing at the last minute. They already have like 3,500 other candidates. If you introduce something brand new, you change yourself without a heads up. That's something that can spook employers. And again, they're already ready to swipe left sooner than they are to swipe right on you. But anyway, um, good to chat with you, Stacy. And it sounds like you're making a shift for everybody on the call too to get to the CEO interview
Yeah.
is a powerful and a whole different conversation by itself as well because they're either just doing a quick check the box, met them and they're fine, or it is a presentation opportunity in a critical position where they really want to know how you move, how you operate, what
Yeah.
your qualifications are, how you fit. That's a whole different interview if you get to that place. And congrats to getting to that place, by the way.
Yeah.
But to Shira's point, yeah, once you give that heads up, you are doing the right thing because with mission orgs and people who come from private sec, and in this case for you, the names you mentioned, the brands, PayPal, Dell, all of those, at this current time that we are in the environment right now, they're all trying to figure out are they going to be solvent in 2026, 2027 right now? And if you throw well, the other thing with mission orgs you have to be careful with too is some of them are anti big names and brands and all of that too. And so that has to be a sensitive approach. But absolutely, and you know this by talking to hiring managers all the time in leadership, this is now a strategic meeting. This is a strategic meeting, and it's all about, yep, what's important to you, CEO? What's
Mhm.
important to you?
Strategy.
Let's talk about that.
Strategy.
Let's have a conversation about that, and then I'll tell you where I'm at on that, what I can bring to the table, and let's have a real discussion about that. And then at the end of the day, we walk away, and you make the decision whether or not I'm that person or not.
It's a really good point, Alki, because when for anybody, right? When you get to the highest level person, let's just say you get to talk to the CEO, that person necessarily has the bird's eye view of the whole organization. That's their lens. That is their lens, regardless of whether they're checking a box on you or not. It is their lens. The lower down, they have, it's kind of like think of a 100,000-foot view, 50,000-foot view, 1,000-foot view. Always try to make your remarks to that top level executive the most macro level thinking you can, because that's how they're seeing you, right? How are you going to advance strategy? How are you going to advance our business objectives? They were thinking high level. Don't get into the weeds with them. That's not they assume you can do the job because everybody else prior to them has vetted you. They just want to know how are you going to advance the overall mission, overall objectives. And if you can do a presentation or even if not, be thinking about ideas, right, that can help them advance. Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Kim, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Kim, you're on mute.
She might be frozen.
Oh, I think she's having technical challenges. All right, she'll probably come back. All right, well, let's see if anybody else has another quick question. All right, you know what we'll do? Let's do this. Again, Kim will probably show back up. Rather than do the networking that I was hoping we could do with LinkedIn, at the very least, I want to do a little round robin. So I call this sort of the game of concentration. Remember when you were all 5 years old and you had the little tiles and you picked up a strawberry and you put it down and you had to find the strawberry that was 3 rows later? We're going to do that here. We're going to go round the room real quickly. And I want everybody to share the following 2 things. Again, what I call your lane and community, your profession, and your industry. Now, I'm going to have to emphasize this to everybody because we have a lot of people. Super short, like a sentence. No backstory. We can't, I'm so sorry, we don't have time for it. But I do want to make sure that we all listen very clearly for what everybody's lane and community is. Why? Because we're not just listening for the sake of listening. We're listening for this game of concentration. If you're a strawberry and somebody else shows up as a strawberry 3 rows later, I want you to make a connection to them. All right. So if somebody here is in finance or someone here is in marketing or in high tech or whatever, and you listen, oh, wait, I'm part of their lane, I'm part of their community, I want you to reach out. So first of all, you feel free for anybody who's interested to go ahead and put your contact information in the chat if you haven't done so already, so people can find you, again, if you're comfortable with that. And then again, when you hear similar lane, similar community, go ahead and reach out and have an offline chat. All right. So super fast. Here's my profession. Here's my lane. And aspirationally, not your backstory, but going forward, windshield. I'm looking for a marketing position in nonprofits. I'm looking for a project management role in the tech community, that kind of thing. Okay. So I'm going to really quickly go around the room and I'll let you know in advance. So Mark, Monica, and then Don.
Yes, Mark Pretzett. I'm an attorney and I am seeking work in the financial services area.
Great. Thank you. Monica, and then Don, and then Brian.
I am Monica Jerby. I work in marketing and communications. My community has been international development, and I'm seeking to pivot my career to serving veterans or the military intelligence space. My first cousins, but it's complicated.
Okay, thank you, Monica. All right, Don, Brian, and then Stacy.
My name is Don Mosier. Excuse me. I am in the cybersecurity industry, and back to you.
Great. Thank you. Brian, Stacy, and then Kim. Kim, by the way, I know you're back. I don't know if you use your mic, but when we're all done with this, we're happy to answer your question. So Brian and Stacy.
Yep, I'm Brian Brandt. My background is technology, generally either infrastructure or security, and I've been working in strategic positions across several industries.
So Brian and Don, sounds like you might have some common lane there. You may want to connect with each other. Stacy and then Kim.
My name's Stacy Green. I'm a senior talent acquisition partner, and primarily my background is in tech, but I'm opening myself open to talent acquisition for nonprofits that help people with disabilities and the military as well.
Great. Kim and then John. I think she's still having technical issues. Okay. All right, Kim, if you can hear me, if you can go ahead and write your lane and community in the chat, that would be great because unfortunately we can't hear you. So John and then Pauletra.
I'm looking for a chief of staff or strategy execution role in tech or nonprofit.
Great, thank you. Pauletra and then Dave.
I am an executive assistant looking for any role in office operation or administration.
Thank you. Dave and then Andrew.
I work in analytic software, essentially in finance and government or both.
Thank you. Andrew and then Celeste.
Field service technician, medical devices. Still looking in that industry.
Great. Kim mentioned that she's in accounting and her community is government and education. And then Celeste and then Catherine.
I'm like Monica. I've been in the international development community. I'd still like to stay in community development social impact as it's been somewhat renamed as of late. And I'm looking for roles in impact or strategy.
Great, thank you. And then Catherine.
So my name is Catherine. I'm in the medical industry. I am looking for roles in revenue cycle management, or revenue operations in the healthcare industry, ideally director or VP positions.
Excellent. So hopefully you all have heard some similarities somewhere along the line. Please, even if it feels a little bit like second cousin, that's okay. Hey, you never know who people know. And even if it isn't, even if it's fifth cousin, that's okay. We want to encourage you to have some offline conversations. And when you do, to open up your LinkedIn's for each other, open up your first level connections, and do some searching in the search bar and search for, like, let's say what your colleague, your networking buddy is looking for marketing roles. You can put in the word marketing in the search bar and see who your first levels are that might be a good connection for them, right? And just start making some introductions because you're all in the same, it's a rising tide lifts all boats, right? You're all here to help each other. And we're, of course, here to help you. So please, we do want to encourage you to reach out and do those one-on-one Zoom coffees. Once in a while we do this. Alki and Vern, I'd like for us to the three of us to put our contact information in the chat in case anyone would like to reach out. At the very least, we would certainly love to have you link in with us. Three of us are happy to have offline chats. I know three of us will do that on a complimentary basis. If you want to chat with us for like 30 minutes, that's fine. So feel free to reach out. We are here to help. Okay. And there was Kim, I know you asked me for my email, so you can just reach out directly. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and formally close up the call for now. We do meet every other Friday from 9:15 to 10:15 Eastern. And after the formal conclusion of this call, for anyone who'd like to stay on for a short prayer call with me, you're certainly welcome to do that. Okay, so have a blessed day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.